I'm Peter Gawith, and we're standing on a farm in the Longbush Valley, looking through to a face that would be highly erodible. Years ago, we were subjected to quite a severe storm, and we lost up to 20% of the country that's got, you can see the eucalypts, and away in the distance the poplars. It was so severe that it had quite a dramatic effect economically on the farm to produce for probably the next 5 years. We struggled with being able to feed the stock well enough to get reasonable land percentages, and so because of the drop in livestock production, it affected us financially. So I felt that if we wanted to stay on this farm and be economic, we had to do something about solving the soil erosion problem. And in those days it was about soil erosion and keeping the soil up on the hills. In today's world, I think we're looking more at sediment discharge into waterways, which is the new buzzword, and planting the trees has done both. You can see the eucalypts were planted back in the late 70s and the 80s, and we've progressed to modern planting management, which is all poplars and willows, and the paddock in the distance there. We've been able to maintain the earth flows, and we've had very little slipping, even in some quite severe storms. And the plus for the regime we've got over there is that we've managed the willow trees by pollarding them, so they're now a source of stock feed during droughts. So that paddock doubles. Not only are we getting protection during the winter, but it's quite a valuable asset during the summer for stock feed. The other thing that we've done is that we're the class 6, the hard class 6 and 7 country, where we felt that we weren't getting much production. We've actually taken that land out of livestock production, fenced it up, and planted it in pine trees, and in some cases higher value species. We haven't had to drop our stock numbers because of it. We'd be looking at probably around 20 hectares of land taken out, but still able to, in reasonably good years, still maintain a 10 stock unit to the hectare. In some areas here, we're onto our second crop of pine trees, and we've looked at the tree crop side of the farm, giving us the same income stream when we do come into the cutting regime, of the same as the cattle income on the farm. So it becomes another income stream, and if something happened to the livestock production in the coming years, we would still have a timber or a silviculture tree income stream, which I think is quite important. It will take time for the trees and the small blocks that we've got planted, but we were looking at a harvest of about once every 3 years. And if we spread that over a 3-year period, we were looking, as I said, a similar income to the cattle income. Always felt is that you get on and you do the job as quickly and as well as you can with the material you've got. Our policy has been to take what we call whole slope planting. So we take a paddock and try and protect all the vulnerable parts of that paddock, so that when we've got those trees established, we can then move on to another block. And we've been able to do that quite successfully, in that we haven't had to return to fix up or fix areas of the paddock that we have missed initially. So doing a whole slope planting, especially when you've got a soil conservator helping you, he'll pick the spots that need protecting and give you advice. And for us, it's worked very, very well. Now that we've got a lot of mature trees, it might look like we've got a lot of shading, and we probably do lose some pasture growth under those trees, but on the other side of it, before we put those trees there, we were losing that ground to slips, so we ended up with bare ground. Our investment in fertiliser and lime and all the things that we put on the hills to make a farm were ending up in the gully, at big expense. Now we can fence in areas that we never thought we could fence before. We can put tracks in areas that we never thought we could put tracks in, and that's all down to having stable hillsides. If you look at some of our plantings in the late 50s, a lot of that was done with pine trees, and they were old catchment board pine trees, but about 10 years ago most of those trees were removed. They made us quite good money. We never thought, they were never planted with the idea that they were ever going to be logged, but we've logged those trees. We've replaced them with a more specialist type timber, because they're in areas that are very expensive to log, and gullies, and on some of the smaller areas of steep slope. We've taken our lower producing slopes where we felt we weren't getting a good return from livestock, and we put those into small forestry blocks, sort of 3, 4, 6 hectare blocks. Those trees have got some time before they mature, but it will give the property an income stream from forestry, which should run, if we harvest on a every 3 year basis. There'll be a continual supply of or continual income coming from that forestry. A lot of the earlier trees that were planted, we have applied for to the government to have emissions trading scheme pay us for those trees, those pre-1990 trees, and that's been, there's actually quite a few hectares there of pre-1990 that we've been able to take advantage of. So when you're planting those trees, when we first planted those trees, the emissions trading scheme was never ever thought of, and it's something that's come along and we've been able to take advantage of it. And the subsequent, or the plantings that we're doing at present, I think we're probably keeping an eye on where we are whole paddock planting, making the most of the canopy cover so that we can trade them, but wouldn't necessarily go out and develop a canopy cover specifically for it. If it happens, it happens. I think we're in the business of livestock farming, and I think that's always going to be the most important thing that we do on this country. Having a tree program for your farm is actually something quite special. We've noticed over the years that we've got more, the native bird population has increased quite a lot. And that's come about, I think, probably a lot of eucalypts, and they are flowering at odd times, so the tuis are there. And just the density of trees allows native birds, I think, to populate, rather than if it was just devoid of all trees, then the native birds just wouldn't be there.